Hey guys, what's going on everybody? My name is Blitzwinger, and ladies and gents, welcome on back to a brand new and hopefully fun speculative video for LEGO Marvel Superheroes 2, or whatever I guess the sequel to LEGO Marvel Superheroes might be called. Now, you might notice how I emphasize LEGO Marvel Superheroes. Yes, I am well aware of the fact that obviously we have gotten LEGO Marvel's Avengers since the release of LEGO Marvel Superheroes, but if you didn't notice, LEGO Marvel's Avengers did not have characters like Wolverine, or the rest of the X-Men for that fact, or maybe Mr. Fantastic and the Fantastic Four, or even Doctor Doom and really cool characters like that. Well, they were missing because that game was based on the cinematic universe for Marvel, at least for the most part. So because of that, characters like the Fantastic Four and X-Men characters did not appear in the game, which for me personally was a bit of a bummer. So that's why I'm saying I really hope the next big LEGO Marvel game will be focused on the comic book side and more so on LEGO Marvel's Superheroes than it would be on LEGO Marvel's Avengers. But I guess time will tell whether or not I'm correct about that. Now, keep in mind, the following list that I will be assembling because of that will be based on the comic book versions of these characters. So if I don't name, let's say the, I don't know, Mark 1 or the Mark 3 or whatever armor that you really love for Iron Man, it's not because I don't like it either. It's because those things are based on the films, whereas this game will be based on the comic book renditions of these characters. Now, there are a lot of characters still to run through, and I know that you could make the list bigger by adding some more less known characters or less popular characters or less major characters like, I don't know, maybe Aunt May, AIM soldiers, Hydra soldiers, so on and so forth. If you add those in, you can really make this character roster quite bigger than the last LEGO Marvel Superheroes game. Now, with all that in mind, we'll work our way in an alphabetical order from top left all the way to the bottom right as we slowly but surely make our way all the way from Abomination down to Yondu as our final character. So, with all that in mind, guys, I would love if you could watch the entire thing to let me know what were your favorite characters. Also, the reason why you might want to check out the entirety of the video is because I'm going to be specifically talking about certain outfits. So for example, I don't just have one version of Captain America. There's several different outfits that I would like to see for Captain America. So we'll discuss each and every single one of those as well. And I made separate little pages with those costumes showcased as well. So with all that in mind, let's get rocking and let's get rolling in the top left corner with Mr. Abomination, whom I'm pretty happy with how they've executed in the past, but I also would love to see a bit more detail brought into the bigger figs or the big figs that they've done in the past. So for example, instead of making a very feel kind of plasticky and lacking in detail, oversimplified, I'd love to see a bit more shading and kind of, bring in those sculpting pieces that would make Abomination feel a lot more like scaly and, well, you know what? I guess make him feel a lot more like Abomination. So I'd love to see that executed for the next game. And of course, if you want, I just thought of this, but you could also include A-Bomb, who was a DLC character in the past. So let's move right along to the next character, whom would be Absorbing Man. I really think that Absorbing Man could be a really fun character from a gameplay perspective. Like, they could do some really cool stuff with him. I don't know if this is possible, but what I would love to do with that character would be if, let's say you're playing as Human Torch, right? Or let's say I'm controlling Human Torch and you're playing as Absorbing Man. You could walk up to my character, hit him, or like touch the character or something while he's on fire, and boom, now you can spew fire as well. Or let's say you run into a pond or a lake in the game, you jump in, and now you're able to put out Lego fires because you have absorbed the power of water. I think that would be such a cool idea. And from a gameplay perspective, would make that character so much fun to play as. So I'd love to see that executed for the Absorbing Man. Then we move on to a very important cosmic character known as Adam Warlock. In fact, I think he's going to be a pretty important character in the cinematic universe as well, but I don't really want to get into spoilers or talk about that any further. So Adam Warlock would be another huge addition to the game. Then we have Angela, who's a really cool character. She used to be a Spawn character for quite a while, I believe, but now she's returned to the Marvel universe, and I don't remember, is she the sister of Thor or something like that? I don't exactly recall how that works out, because I haven't read the comics where she's appeared recently. I think she was in a Guardians of the Galaxy series, actually, so she's another cosmic character. She's really cool. She's got this really sweet blade, and then a couple of other really cool weapons, some sweet armor as well, so it'd be really cool to see her appear in a Lego game, and I think that she would be a really fun addition to the title. Then we move on to Annihilus, who was a part of the Annihilation, I believe, storyline, and he's kind of a weird, like, metallic version of Green Goblin, except he's also quite tall, so maybe like a mix with Fin Fang Foom as well. So a very weird looking character for sure, but one that I would love to see appear in the game. And furthermore, I would really, really love if they would be able to play around with scale, because what we saw in LEGO Marvel's Avengers, which was really exciting, was the idea that scale wasn't limited any longer to just minifigures or big figs. Now we had characters like Devil Dinosaur, who was a completely non-unique LEGO character running around the hub worlds. That was something that was possible to execute from a technological standpoint. And we saw a character like Fin Fang Foom be able to grow to a massive size. So I would love to see a scale that was maybe a little bit smaller than Fin Fang Foom, or quite a bit smaller than him, but also bigger than a big fig, and Annihilus would really fit in that scale really, really well. Now, speaking of scale, we move on along to one of the smallest characters in the Marvel Universe, and that is Ant-Man. And yes, I only have one outfit for Ant-Man, not because I don't like the character, I just don't really see myself personally being particularly excited about, like, oh, having multiple variations of Ant-Man. So for me, I think that one version of Ant-Man, classic Ant-Man, is just fine. Don't get me wrong, I really like Giant Man as well, which is why you'll see him appear in a little bit here once we get to him. But Ant-Man will just get one outfit. Now, speaking of anti-characters, very nice segue there to Anti-Venom, who is a relatively new-ish character that I also would love to see added into this title, because we have seen Carnage in the past. We've also seen Venom in the past in games, but now it'd be really cool to also get Anti-Venom so that you could have like almost like a little symbiote squad running around and taking care of business in the LEGO Marvel universe. So Anti-Venom would be another cool character to see appear. Now, the next character is a character that I would not just like to see in the game, but I would probably think would work out very well as the big villain of the game. They could probably build the entire storyline around this character, and that is Apocalypse. Of course, Apocalypse has been a huge major character in many different comic book storylines, like Age of Apocalypse, for example. So I think he would warrant being the big bad guy of the entire game, and you could really use and build the storyline around him in a very interesting manner. So I'd love, love, love to see Apocalypse make an appearance in the next LEGO Marvel game. Then we move on to Archangel, who is actually the first character to have two outfits, and the main reason for that is because I'd love to see the classic X-Force team in the game. So because of that, we need Archangel to have the X-Force costume, but I also think it makes sense to have regular Archangel in there. So why not give him both costumes so that he could appear as either regular or classic Archangel, or the X-Force version as well. From there, we move on to another really cool character, and that is Ares, who I would love to see in a different scale than a minifigure or a big fig. I'd love to see him kind of a in-between scale where he's not quite as tall or as huge as a character like, I don't know, let's say Abomination or the Blob or something like that. So to me, he doesn't warrant being a big fig, but you could make him a bit bigger than a minifigure, make him a bit bulkier than a minifigure. And if they could do that, that would be really cool to see, because I think he would really warrant that a lot. Then let's transition right to Arnim Zola, who appeared in previous games, and they did a pretty good job with that character as it is, so don't really have much to nitpick about that character, but I think it'd be cool to see him appear once again. Then we've got Baron Mordo, who is obviously gotten a lot more popular as a character thanks to the Doctor Strange film, but I think that since this is the comic book version, the one that we have seen before was just well enough executed to where I don't really have any complaints. So I would just like to see this character return once again. And then we move on to Baron Zemo, who again also is a character that can be transitioned and executed simply. There's really not too much to him as far as execution goes, so I don't really have any complaints or changes that I'd like to see happen for that character either. Then we've got Batroc, or the Leaper. I think Batroc the Leaper, or is it the Leaper Batroc? Either way, it's a character that we kind of, I guess, in some way have seen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe as well. He was played by Georges St. Pierre, if you don't recall. It was the character that Captain America fights in the Winter Soldier movie, at the very beginning, like on the boat. So that character that he has like a hand-to-hand fight, that was supposed to be Batroc. Now, obviously, the comic book version of him is a lot more over the top and a lot more hilarious looking. So I'd love to see this version appear in the game as well. Then we've got Beast, who is another character that I think could be either a big fig or a minifig, but I also think it'd be cool if, again, just like a character like Ares, they could develop some character that's a little bit bigger than a minifigure, but also not quite as big as a big fig, because Beast would be another character that would fit that scale, at least in my personal opinion. Then we've got Beetle, which is a character that has been getting a lot more attention in the comics, and I think that would be really cool to then see the character appear in the game as well, and do the modern Beetle, like Beetle as in, like, you know, the armored suit, not just like a tights kind of thing. So kind of almost like a actual Iron Man type character versus somebody that's wearing spandex and such. So that'd be really cool to see as well. And we've got Beta Ray Bill, who is obviously Thor with a weird fox thing head. Never did know much about Beta Ray Bill himself, but again, obviously a very important character and a must in a Lego Marvel game. Then we transition to the Black Bolt character, which is another cosmic character, so that is pretty exciting and would be really cool to obviously add a bit more depth to the cosmic universe. We've already got like Adam Warlock, Angela, Annihilus, so that's a pretty good start right there, but then adding Black Bolt to that lineup would be another really nice addition. And it'd be really cool to see maybe kind of a more not metallic, I don't really know what the right word, but a bit of a different finish on the actual character than what we saw before, because they've done a pretty good job with the character, I'm not gonna lie, but I think it'd be really cool to see something a bit more with a bit more pizzazz to make the character stand out and not blend in with others. Speaking of a character that stands out all the time, and that is the one and only Black Cat. Would be cool to see her added. So this kind of starts up our Spider-Man rogues lineup here with Black Cat. So I'd love to see her added into the game, and obviously would be a really cool character to add from the Spider universe. Then we have Black Panther, and for Black Panther, we actually do have two outfits, just like we did for Archangel. So I'd like to see the classic Black Panther, kind of like almost dark bluish outfit, and then the more modern Black Panther that is the much darker Black Panther, if that makes sense, you know, where his costume is quite substantially different as far as how much more details it has, and just the coloring, shading on it is quite a bit different. So I'd love to see that executed for the Black Panther. Then we've got Black Widow, which again, I know that you could probably make the argument like, hey, let's do a couple of variations for her as well. But for the most part, Black Widow's costume has been unchanged. She usually just wears like all black leather. So because of that, I would stick to just one costume for her. Then we've got Blade, and that's, again, also going to be a character that we only see one costume for. This would be the comic book Blade again, so don't like confuse that with the Blade that we saw in Blade 1, 2, and 3 with Wesley Snipes. So he's obviously going to look a little different as far as the design of the character and the look of the character, but for the most part, there is obviously quite a few similarities between the overall designs as well. Then we have Blob, which will be another one of our larger characters. So Blob would be really, really cool to see added to the game as well. Of course, we have seen him before, and they did a very good job with that figure. So maybe just polish it up a bit more and add it in, or just use the previous one, because that one was pretty gosh darn good in my opinion. And we move on to Bullseye. Again, not too much to say about this character, just do as good of a job as you did before, and nothing to complain about there. Then we've got Cable, who I'd love to see again, another character that I think would fit perfectly in that in-between scale, which is why the main reason why I'm bringing this up so often is because I feel like it kind of would warrant the technology and all the, you know, technical know-how of making this happen, because I'm sure it's not easy to design a whole new scale of characters from a technical standpoint and make them all work in the game. But if there's enough characters that warrant it, I think that would be really cool. So Cable would be another character that I think could be a little bit taller than a minifigure and maybe a little shorter than a big fig, so you could get that cool, like, you know, giant scale that you would expect from Cable. So then let's move on to the one, the only. It is Captain America time, and we begin with the classic costume. So like super duper classic, you know, with the little wings on the sides of his head, very kind of almost baby blue colors for the outfit, the giant red boots, that classic Captain America. So that would be our first version. Then we would do the more modern, kind of more commonly seen Captain America outfit that we would see in the comics nowadays, or maybe even in like the Ultimate comics. So something along those lines, a much more modern colored version. Then we would have Bucky Cap, because again, very important variation of Captain America. And finally, last but certainly not least, we would have the Steve Rogers outfit for Captain America, which was basically when he was unmasked for the most part. And I think this would fit well under the Captain America umbrella. So we have 4 different costumes for Cap, which might be overkill, but I think that character deserves it, and he's substantial enough to warrant all of those variations. So then let's move on to another Captain, and this is Captain Britain, whom I really love the design for this character, and I think that, you know what, maybe in some way, like if you're a huge fan of Captain Britain, you could warrant getting another outfit for him, because I wouldn't mind that whatsoever. I think that it's a really cool enough design to do that, but I just don't know enough about Captain Britain to say like, oh, this is an important costume or this is an important costume. But I would say that if there's anyone there or out there who's a huge fan of Captain Britain, let me know down in the comment section below what other costumes has he rocked before. Then let's transition to Carnage, which is another character that they've done a very good job with. The only thing I would change on him is that in the past, when they did the Carnage figure, they had this like neck piece and the tentacles that would attach to him that didn't really match the colors of everything else. So I think that they just need to change that up a little bit. And other than that, Carnage is a-okay, and would love to see him added, obviously, to the game. Let's move on to Chameleon, which is another really, really cool character, in my opinion, from a gameplay perspective, because in my mind, it'd be sweet if as you're like playing, let's say, once again, let's use the example of one of you guys is controlling Deadpool, right? And we're playing co-op. And then I would play as Chameleon, and you walk up to the character, whoop, and now you can become that character. So you press like a button and he copies the character. He does not gain their abilities or anything like that, but he can look like any other character. I think that would be such a cool ability where he would basically mirror the other character. That's a really cool gameplay idea, and I'd love to see that executed. It'd be really cool if he could also like become NPCs. So like as you're walking on the street, you could just walk up to other characters and target them, and then he would turn into them. I think that could be a really cool idea as well. So let's transition to the next character, which will be Colossus, another one of those characters that could be not necessarily a big fig. He doesn't need to be, let's say, but also maybe not a minifig, so something in between those two. I think that would work very, very well. Now, of course, in the past, I believe he was a big fig, so maybe they'll just stick to that. Let's move on to Cyclops, another X-Men character. I'd love to see classic Cyclops, kind of like, you know, Jim Lee Cyclops, in terms of like, you know, classic blue and yellow outfit, and then also the more modern Dark Phoenix Cyclops, or the Avengers versus X-Men Cyclops. That would be really cool as well. So there would be 2 costumes for Cyclops. We move on to the next character who also has multiple costumes, and this will be Daredevil, who will get his red suit, his yellow classic suit, and his Shadowland suit as well. So we have 3 different variations of Daredevil. Then we've got Darkhawk, which is one of my personal favorite designs as far as just the character design goes. It's just a really cool character for sure. It kind of almost feels like a Black Bolt if Black Bolt had like way giant wings, and on top of that he had a helmet that covered his entire face, not just part of his face. So yeah, he's pretty sweet looking character for sure. Now we move on to Deadpool, which I know obviously there will be a lot of demands about Deadpool and how many variations of Deadpool there should be. But in the past, we've gotten one Deadpool, which was the classic red and black Deadpool. I think in this one, as I mentioned before, I want to have an X-Force team in the game. So it'd be cool if we got red and black Deadpool. Then we've got, on top of that, the X-Force Deadpool. Then we got X-Men outfit Deadpool, because I think that'd be pretty neat as well. And finally, Lady Deadpool, because I think that would be a really cool surprise to see in the game as well. So with that in mind, let's then transition to Dr. Octopus. They did that character very well in the past, so just reuse the same character model. They did really, really well before. Same for Doctor Strange, which is our next character. I'd only do one costume for him. I don't particularly find that his costume in the present or in the past is that different. You could do something that is kind of a in between, between the two different looks and have something a bit more original. So that's my opinion. Then we've got Domino because, of course, again, we need the X-Force. So Domino would be a cool addition to that lineup as well. Then going back to Doctor Strange's world, we have Dormammu, who is a really, really cool character. And I think he should be a big fig. That would be really cool to see. Then we've got Doctor Doom, another big baddie that would be really cool to see in the game, and they've done him really well before, so would be cool to see him appear again. And again, like I mentioned before, another character that you could add as just like a random, fodder type character would be some Doom bots, maybe even do a couple of variations. So there you go. Then let's move on to Drax, starting our Guardians of the Galaxy lineup there. So we've got classic Drax right there. Then for Electro, I actually would do two costumes. One of them would be classic Electro, or like, Marvel's 616 universe Electro. And then the other one would be Ultimate Electro, which is kind of the one that you would somewhat quote and see in the Spider-Man movie, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. And yes, I know that a lot of people don't like that movie, but I think that it's a really cool design for Electro to be either like all out of energy or that classic Electro that we know as well. Then we move on to Elektra, and I think that for Elektra, it'd be really cool to just have the one outfit. I know she's worn like the white outfit as well, so if you want, you could do that as an alternative costume for her, but I think the red is iconic enough and important, the only important costume that you would want to have for Elektra. Then we have Falcon. Now, for Falcon, I will say that I would love to probably see the Captain America outfit for him as well, but he did a really good job with it in the past, so I completely forgot to add it on there. So the Captain America outfit for Falcon would be really cool to see as well. Now, next up, we have Fin Fang Foom. They did an amazing job with him before. Same thing. Would love to see him become huge again, maybe even bigger than before. That would be really cool. Now, speaking of big characters, we have gotten a Galactus before in LEGO Marvel Superheroes, but he was tiny. He was a minifigure version of him. Now, hopefully, what we can get is exactly like Fin Fang Foom, a huge version of Galactus, because that would be absolutely awesome. From there, we move on to another X-Men character, and that would be Gambit. Then we have Gamora, followed by Ghost Rider. Ooh, and here he is. Giant Man follows Ghost Rider up, so for those of you that are like, hey, where's Giant Man? There he is. Finally, he's shown up. Then we've got Green Goblin, who will actually get two outfits. We'll get the classic Green Goblin and then also the ultimate Green Goblin, who is very different because regular Green Goblin will be a minifigure and will have his glider, whereas ultimate Green Goblin will be a huge big fig, maybe even bigger than a big fig. Pretty much a giant troll monster that is quite substantially different to the regular Green Goblin that you see. And then we move on to Groot, because I am Groot, you are Groot, we are all Groot, and obviously he needs to be in the game. I actually would love to see Groot redone, because I thought that the big fig that we got in LEGO Marvel Superheroes, don't get me wrong, it was good, but it wasn't great in my personal opinion, because it was very plain, like there was very little to the big fig as far as design goes. So I'd love to see something with a lot more like textures and sculpt work and paint work on it. So that's just my personal opinion there. We move right along to a character that I think a lot of people want to see, and that is Gwenpool, who is, of course, a very new character. It's basically, from what I understand, Gwen Stacy as a Deadpool character known as Gwenpool. I don't know much about her, or I don't know anything about her because I haven't read any of the comics that involve her yet. But it is certainly something that is on my reading list. So as soon as I know more about the character, I would be able to tell you whether or not she needs like more costumes or anything like that. But for now, it'd be cool to just have her in the game. Then we have Havoc, which is a character that has become somewhat more important in the Marvel Universe and then now less important again. So a character that I think would just be cool to see added into the title. Then we've got Hawkeye, who I would actually give 3 different costumes to. We would have very classic Hawkeye, so like, the purple masked look along with the bluish outfit. And then we would have modern Hawkeye, which is the one that he is unmasked for the most part, kind of what we would see in like Matt Fraction's run on Hawkeye. So that outfit. And then finally, the final version, which I think is going to be a bit of a surprise, I would do the Old Man Logan Hawkeye as well, because I think that could be a really cool, like, kind of tip of the cap to comic book fans to have that character in the game. So I'd love to see that as well. Then we would have Hercules, because he's awesome. Then we've got Hobgoblin, another goblin from the Spider-Man universe, so why not? Then we move along to the Hulks, which we would have 5 of them. Now, I did also put Red Hulk under this costume design. I know that it's not the same person, the Red Hulk and the Green Hulk, so you could obviously make the Red Hulk a separate character if you'd like, which is what we had in the past, so that really just depends. I just kept him here in the costumes just for organization's sake. So we would have classic Green Hulk, then we would have Planet/World War Hulk, which is the one that we're going to see in the Thor Ragnarok movie, so the one with the kind of metallic arm covering, and then the sword and some cool weapons and such, so that'd be cool. Then I'd do the Gray Hulk, because that's really cool and classic. Then I'd do Maestro Hulk, again another Hulk that is technically not Hulk or Bruce Banner, so you could do obviously that as a separate character if you want, because it'd be really cool to see Maestro Hulk. And then last but certainly not least, we have Red Hulk. Then for Human Torch, we would have the Human Torch in 3 different costumes as well, because I think it'd be cool if we had 1, him as Johnny Storm, 2, him as Human Torch. So for Johnny Storm's version, it would be literally just him in a Fantastic Four costume. Of course, you could technically, now that I think about it, just have that considered. Yeah, I guess technically you'd only need 2 costumes, because for the most part, you wouldn't need to have 3 costumes for him, because he could just be Johnny Storm before you set off to fly and he becomes Human Torch. But for me personally, I just think it'd be kind of cool if you did have all 3 as an option, and the third one would be the Future Foundation costume. So those would be the 3 that I would go with. Would be Johnny Storm, then Flame On Johnny Storm, and then Future Foundation as well. So those would be the 3 costumes for Johnny Storm. Let's move right along from that to Iceman. Then after Iceman, we have Invisible Woman, who would also get 2 costumes, one classic Fantastic Four costume, and then the other would be the Future Foundation costume. Then for Iron Fist, we would do 2 costumes, classic green and yellow, and then yellow and white outfits. So those would be the 2 there. And now we get to Iron Man, who has, I think, 9 total costumes. So let's start running through them. First and foremost, we have very classic Iron Man, kind of bucket head. I like to call it bucket head armor, which is the silver, very, very old school armor. Then we've got Silver Centurion armor. Then we would have stealth suit armor. Then we would have a Thor Buster armor. Of course, you can't do Thor busting without Hulk busting as well. So you got the Hulk Buster armor. Then we would have the Extremis armor. Now, the next armor is an armor that I know maybe most people are going to be like, what? That doesn't even make sense. Why would you want that included in here? But it is I think it was called Model 34, I want to say, or it was like the Submariner armor, something like that, which was a part of the Argonauts storyline, where basically like Tony was mind controlled. And so I don't want to spoil the whole storyline, but essentially it's an armor that Tony creates to fight Submariner, Namor. And it's a really cool looking armor. I really love the way it looks, and it's so unique and different. And I wanted to make sure that all the armors, it wasn't just a variation of the same armor, and instead they were all distinct and unique and different. So this is kind of our underwater armor, the one that would allow us to actually go underwater as Tony Stark. So I think that would work really, really well. Then we would also do a golden variation of the Buckethead armor, because I think it's classic enough and it warrants that. So it's almost, again, kind of a tip of the cap to comic book fans. So I'd like to see that. And then speaking of classic, of course, we would have the very, very, very classic, most iconic probably suit of armor that Tony has ever had. And then let's move right along to Jackal, who is a way, 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 way not particularly known character, but he's from the Spider-Man universe. And I'd love to see him added just to, add a little bit more depth to the Spider-Man universe characters that we have in the game. Then we are also going to include Jubilee because she's awesome, and the 90s X-Men cartoon made us all fans of Jubilee. And then we've got Juggernaut, who was very well executed before, so I don't think there's much that they need to change about him. Same thing goes for the next character, which is the Kingpin. Kraven the Hunter was really well done in the previous game, so I'd love to see him just maybe some more details and such, but for the most part, he was very, very well done. Then we have Lady Death, who would go along very well with Thanos, so I think it'd be cool to see her in the game as well. Then we'd have Loki, followed by Luke Cage, Magneto, Malekith, Man-Thing, Mandarin, Mantis, because of course she's become quite a bit more substantial, especially thanks to the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 film, so it'd be cool to see her make an appearance. Then we've got Maria Hill, who is obviously super duper important to S.H.I.E.L.D. and to the well-being of Earth, followed by Mephisto, who would be super duper cool as a character that, again, was maybe not quite a big fig, but also not a minifigure scale, so something in between those two. I'd love to see that happen. Then we've got MODOK, who they did an amazing job with before, so I'd just love to see basically the same exact take, maybe again, just some little new touch-ups, but for the most part, could remain the same character. We've got Morbius after that, followed by Mr. Fantastic, who would also get 2 outfits, just like all his other comrades from the Fantastic Four. He would have his Fantastic Four outfit and his Future Foundation outfit. Then we've got Mysterio, who would love to be a big villain in the storyline, because I love Mysterio and I think he's a super underrated character, so I'd really, really love to see him take maybe center stage in the next game here. Then after that, we've got Namor, because obviously we already discussed the armor that was supposed to battle him, the Model 34, but now we also have Namor himself. Then we would have Nick Fury, and what I would do is have both versions of Nick Fury, the Ultimate Nick Fury and the 616 Nick Fury, because why not? You can have them both, so why not have them as alternate costumes? I think that'd be really, really cool to see. Then we've got Nightcrawler, who could be amazingly fun as far as a gameplay perspective. Like, if you could maybe like pinpoint, like, you know, double click or point to a specific spot and then he could like teleport there on the map or something, that would be so much fun. It'd be really, really, really cool to see. So I think it'd be a really fun character from a gameplay perspective. Then after that, we have Nova. And if you want, I guess technically you could do Kid Nova as well, just to have a variation to the character. And again, that's another cool cosmic character. After that, we've got Onslaught, who again would be a really sweet bad guy to have in the game. I'd probably make him a big fig as far as scale is concerned. Then we would have Phoenix, because, well, she's awesome and she was in the game before. Then we've got Professor X, Punisher, Red Skull, Rhino, Rocket Raccoon, Ronin, Sabretooth, Sandman, Scarlet Witch, Sentry, who I don't think, or maybe he was in the last game. Maybe he was in a DLC. I don't recall exactly, but I'm pretty sure he wasn't, but maybe I'm wrong about that. Either way, Sentry would be in this next game. Then we have Shocker, another bad guy from the Spidey universe. Silver Surfer, Scar, of course, son of Hulk. So that would be really cool to have him and Planet Hulk fighting. That would be a sweet fight there. Then we've got Spider-Gwen. Since we had Gwenpool, obviously we couldn't ignore Spider-Gwen. So she would be a really, really awesome addition. And if you want, you could probably do like an unmasked version of her as well, because I think that would be kind of fun. So you could do 2 outfits for her as well. Then we've got Spider-Man, who probably has the most outfits out of all the characters that I have. So it kind of tells you, I guess, which is my favorite Marvel character. But for Spider-Man, we would do classic red and blue. Then we would do Miles Morales, of course. Symbiote Spider-Man, the black suit one. Then we would do Future Foundation Spidey. Then what I would do is both versions of Spider-Man 2099. So like the old school version and the new one, because I think both of them are beautiful outfits, especially the new one. I really, really love the way that one looks. So I'd love to see that appear. Then we've got Scarlet Spider, Armored Spider-Man, the Amazing Bagman, I think he was called, which is the one where he's got a paper bag on his head and a oversized Fantastic Four outfit. So that would be another one. Then we've got Iron Spider, who was done pretty well before, but the only issue was that he had a different like head colored piece that needed to be not the same color as the rest of the was that the minifigure? I don't remember if it was the minifigure or if it was the actual in-game character. But either way, they've done him pretty well. I'd love to see him executed with a bit more pizzazz and a bit more details, I guess, to bring the character to life. Then I have a bit of an obscure pick, and that is Spider-Hulk, because I think it's a hilarious looking look where you could have a big fig that is essentially Hulk with a torn up Spider-Man outfit. So I think that would be super duper sweet. And then finally, Spider UK. So with all that in mind, let's move right along to Spider-Woman. Then we've got Squirrel Girl, Stan Lee, because he's the man, and obviously we'd have to have him included. Then we've also got Star-Lord, because, well, Star-Lord, he's awesome. And then we move on to Storm, who actually will get 3 outfits. We would get a classic black outfitted Storm, then we would get the Mohawk Storm, and then also the kind of like 90s, X-Men 90s cartoon Storm with the white, all white kind of outfit going on. I think that could be really, really cool as well. So, moving right along, from that, we go to the Super Skrull. Then we have the Taskmaster, Thanos, who I would love to see done up much better than before, because I thought that it was really, really plain and kind of overly boring. I'd love to see a big figure that has a lot more details and kind of feels like he's actually got a suit of armor on instead of just something that feels very plasticky and flat. So I'd love to see that executed better. Then we have the Hood, who's a pretty important character from the Marvel comics. We've got the Leader, who is hilarious and was hilarious before when they made him in Lego Marvel Superheroes, so why not do him up again? Then we've got Lizard, who again could be a big fig or maybe a character in between a big fig and a minifig. I know he was a big fig before, but maybe make him kind of like, an in-between type scale, because I think that'd be cool to see. The Thing will also be a character that obviously gets 2 outfits, which will be his classic Fantastic Four outfit, and then the Future Foundation's outfit, because, hey, we need the Future Foundation to be executed well across the board with all the different characters. Then we move on to Thor, who will get 3 costumes. We will get, we'll do classic Thor, like classic comic book Thor, modern Thor. Then we would do the Thor, where he's essentially done up as with the long beard and a different suit of armor. I don't remember the name of that one. It's not King Thor, because King Thor is the last outfit that I picked, which is kind of the very old, almost Odin-looking Thor. But I'd love to see like a younger Thor, but the one with the like long beard. I forget the name of this armor, but either way, that suit as well. Then we would have Ultron after that, followed by Venom. And for Venom, we're actually going to have 3 outfits. We're going to do classic Venom. We're going to do Mac Garner Venom, which is the one that has like the scorpion tail, because I always thought that was a really cool design. And then also Agent Venom, because I think that would be sweet. So you could do like a regular Venom could become a big fig. The second Venom could become, maybe he is a big fig always. And then the third Venom could be just always a minifig, because I think that could be really cool to see. After that, we have Vision, then Vulture, again, another Spidey villain. We got War Machine. Again, for War Machine, if you want, you could do a couple of different designs. But for me, for the most part, I don't really see a huge significant difference between his classic armor and his new armors. So I don't really see the need to have the differences between them. I'd love to see just a really well done one version of his armors. Then we've got Warpath to round out our X-Force team. Then we got Whiplash. We move on to Wolverine, who actually gets 5 different costumes. So we have classic blue and gold, or not blue and gold, I guess it's blue and yellow Wolverine. Then we have brown and yellow Wolverine as well, because that's a pretty classic design. Unmasked Wolverine as well, because I think it'd be really cool to have the option to have him in his costume but unmasked, because it's pretty iconic and a very cool look for Wolverine. Then we would do X-Force Wolverine, because again, why not have another X-Force character? And last but certainly not least, especially with the success of Logan, we would have Old Man Logan Wolverine available as well. And the final 2 characters are Yellow Jacket. Obviously, it would be really cool to see him in the game. And last but certainly not least, it would be Yondu. My goodness, that was a lengthy recording. I did not expect to be talking for this long, but you know what? There were so many characters to run through, so many different costumes and so many different little variables that I wanted to bring up for the characters, because I really am genuinely super duper stoked for the possibility of Lego Marvel Superheroes 2 and wanted to touch on the different ideas that I had for the game and little things that I would love to see improved. But now I'd love to hear your opinions. So down in the comment section below, just take a moment and write to me like, hey, Blitz, I think this is a good idea, and I think this is a bad idea, and I'd like to see this happen, and so on and so forth, because you never know. Maybe somebody from TT Games is watching, maybe they're listening, and they'll check in and be like, hey, that's a pretty good idea, or this is a good idea, or that's a cool character, and maybe because of that, we will end up getting something that we wouldn't have otherwise. So thank you guys so very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't forget to click the like button. It was an insane project to record, but I also am really excited if you guys enjoy this video. I'd love to put something together like this for maybe the next Lego Batman game and maybe the next Lego game that I think we're going to be getting. So please let me know if you enjoyed this. Click the like button and let me know if you'd like to see more of these in the future. Thanks all for watching, guys. I'll see you all later, alligators. Bye-bye, everyone.